Like, isn't that the thing you were talking before the break, Brian, about how they were sort of, we're going to try and change things around and bring through players from the academy, but oh God, we have to keep Mbappe. We just give him the sun, the moon, the stars, whatever €1 million a week that he's on, and then the financial fair play thing. We got to balance that as well. Like, is that what makes the whole project sort of almost an impossible thing to get the balance right in?
Impossible, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it needs a proper structure in the club where it's not about, you know, the Qatari owners dictating the policy. I mean, they can agree a policy and have a director of football in place and a manager in place, but they've got to let them go off and do their work and be advised by good football people and intelligent football people how to go about it. I mean, would say, for instance, Manchester City or another fairly well-run club, or some of the English clubs that we're quite familiar with, or Bayern Munich, have signed Ramos? No. Would they have signed Messi? I think no, on the wages that they have to pay. As Richard said, it's outlandish. But it's also kind of, they wouldn't have coped with the idea of Messi just stay around and play. Every now and again when the ball comes to you, do something lovely pass through the middle, but you don't have to work for the team. And that's, they don't have any, to me, any great core values at PSG or how they're going. Like, there's a bit about entertainment and scoring goals, where Richard said they can do loads of that within their own league, and they can do it in the group stages. They lashed, I think, makey-𝐲𝐫𝐲 7-2 in the group. They beat Juventus 2-1 in both games. Juventus, who are average enough this year, but they couldn't beat Benfica in either game. Now we see Benfica doing quite well. They drew with Benfica in both matches, 1-1. But as Richard said, they can't adapt to the biggest of games, to the discipline and the way the game fluctuates when you might be behind and you've got to find a way of breaking down a good side, or when you're ahead, can you hang on to it? Now, on this tie, they haven't been ahead in either match, but they had the advantage of the home game, and they weren't good enough to take the game to Bayern, to deal with the energy and tactics of Bayern. Like, who take risks and are courageous in the shape. Coleman as a wide wing back on the right-hand side, play with 3 centre-backs, leave it quite open down the side of the centre. You'd say Upamecano, would he be quick enough to deal with the problems? They put in the young fella Stanisic tonight on the right side of the back 3, and he played very well, coped with it very well, but it wasn't like he had loads of protection on the outside and on the back 5. Their system is almost 3-2-4-1. The wing backs are so advanced. Davies, that's the courage they play. That's what their supporters expect.
They have values.
They have values. They've consistency and they've history. PSG is a makey-up recent history of what they're trying to do now, and it hasn't been successful. And I, for one, I'm quite happy to see them get knocked out. I don't believe in the project of PSG. I don't believe in that idea that if you have the most money and you have the oil dollars, that you should be able to buy the team and buy the trophy and win it that way. I don't believe, or that part of it should be to throw out the manager at the end of any season if you don't win that particular competition because you don't think he's good enough. They've had great managers and they keep turning them over and hoping that they get lucky with one of them. Yeah,
we looked at a list of them before the game. And is that what's cost them in the end, Richard? That it's the project of a country that wants to make a statement about itself. And as Brian says, OK, they had this thing, well, we were talking about 𝐁𝐫𝐢𝐚𝐧 who came in as sporting director back end of last season, and he brought in 𝐁𝐫𝐢𝐚𝐧. He's the man to build the team. But the owners wanted to have Messi, Mbappe and Neymar for the Qatar World Cup, front and centre. They're our boys. Pay them whatever they want. And everybody look at us and say, that's the PSG players starring at the World Cup, and we own football, basically. We own the world of football. And in terms of building a team, the result is tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's always... I suppose people look back and go, well, how many Champions Leagues did you win, or stuff like that? And PSG are nowhere near winning the Champions League. So the players will always move on. They'll find new superstars. But eventually they're going to have to build a team, which probably isn't full of Mbappe, Messi and Neymar, but full of people like Kimmich, like de Ligt, people who do their jobs correctly in the right positions. So, like Brian says, you don't want to see them succeed because they're not going to succeed because they're not building in the right way. There's no culture in the club. There's no history in the club. It's just right, who does everyone think's the best in the world? Let's get him here and let's see how many jerseys of his we can sell and stuff like that. And I spoke to the manager of Monaco last season. They beat them 3-0. And their team talk, their sort of tactics for the game, we're going to play down the right-hand side because we know we can just get out past Neymar now easy because he won't track back. So if you're one of the best footballers in the world and another team is exploiting your defensive, it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be like that. He should be terrified of people like that.
That's about going back to what I said. You can't carry fellas.
Yeah.
Modern
Seen you as a
world of
weakness
football,
rather than as
they carry players who are not going to work for the team, who just are about their own bit. And have I pulled something out of the bag? Have I done a little dribble, thrown a few shapes, had a shot, scored a goal? But I'll leave the rest of it to the rest of them. Let them do the running around, the work and the hard work and the graft. And then I'll do a few tumbles when I get a tackle. That's at times.
It's the same thing every year, though, Brian, is it? We've been sitting here last 10 years and it's the same sort of thing,
when they were beaten
isn't it?
in the final by Birmingham, it could be in 2020, there was no crowd at the match, which I kind of think is ironic. There was no crowd at the match to watch the Stars. But there was a bit of me wanted them to win it because of I wanted to see Messi win another Champions League after the demise of Barcelona. There was a bit about that I liked. I liked the emergence of Mbappe. I really like him. I like the fun he plays with. Obviously, he's been messy to deal with at the start of this season, threatened to leave and looked like he was leaving, and took the president to come in and get involved, Macron, for them to stay. There was a bit of me there at that time, but after that, no, I just bringing Messi into the picture now. At this age, like at that time, it was Neymar, Di Maria, and Neymar.
Cavani, was it?
What?
Cavani
was around at that time, and there was a little. But now I just go.
Kind of.
I don't want them. And tonight, I mean, there wasn't enough about them tonight. That say they really wanted it themselves. It was poor enough. I mean, Bern, far better team over the two legs, home and away, made the most chances and got the most goals.